What's happening, guys? What's going on YouTube? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. I just wanted to make a quick video talking about the coronavirus and the stock market, the coronavirus and investing. I'm gonna kind of walk you through like my thought process, and like I really don't have this figured out by any means. I'm kind of trying to figure out what my next move's gonna be, and I would love to hear what you guys think. So more than anything, I want this video to be kind of a discussion starter. So go ahead and drop your comments down below, your thoughts. What are you doing? Are you pulling money out of the market? Are you seeing this as a buying opportunity? Are you going to sit on the sidelines and kind of see how things shake out? I was a little bit worried about this only because we did the article last night about how, actually we've done two articles recently. We did the article about how millennials are behind previous generations in investing in home ownership, and then last night we had another millennial article. A lot of my friends up until recently weren't investing, have never really invested. I tend to be kind of the go-to person. Like whenever my friends like are thinking about setting up like a SEP IRA, or should they invest in their 401k and things like that, a lot of times they come to me and kind of ask me for advice or if I'll help them set it up. And I don't want to force anybody, right? Like when it comes to entrepreneurship, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin investing, if you want to learn about it, if you want to talk about it, I'll talk till my face, till I'm blue in the face. But I don't want to be one of those annoying people that like forces their views or forces their interests on other people. Like, you guys are different. You guys come here to be annoyed by me and to hear my ramblings. If you don't want to hear them, you don't got to come check out the videos. But I don't want to, like, my friends who I'm grabbing a drink with, smoking a joint with, grabbing a coffee with, I don't want to like bombard them with all this stuff. But if they have questions or if they're interested or want to talk about this stuff, I'm more than happy to kind of chop it up about that stuff. So anyhow, one buddy of mine a while back, for years he's been, hey, we got to sit down. Can you kind of walk me through like what I should be investing in, or some of your thoughts? And he wound up doing either Acorns or Stash. I forget which one. I'm generally not a huge fan of those platforms, but the one thing I think is cool about it is I think they intrigue people and get people interested in investing. And then when people actually see that money start to grow, they get excited, and then they actually start really investing through another platform, whether it's jumping up to Robinhood. I'm not a huge fan of Robinhood, but I think Robinhood is a stepping stone to a Vanguard, a Fidelity, a Schwab. So a buddy of mine just recently started investing, and then of course this coronavirus stuff starts happening, and even seasoned investors are like freaking out. It's big news, and so I'm worried. I'm like he finally like invests, which I'm happy to see. And then this happens. Like, I hope he's not freaking out. And I got a couple texts from him earlier, and I was kind of excited to see that like he's actually excited about this and sees this as a buying opportunity. Imagine if you had bought stocks like during the 2008 crash and leading out of it, and how much more those stocks would have been today. If you look at stocks like, I think Citigroup was like $3, Sirius Radio was like down to a matter of cents, Ford was like $1, Dow Chemical, which is now at $50, $60, $70, something like that, was down to just a couple bucks, maybe $6. Like, you would have saw huge gains if you dumped a lot of money into the market back then, and we're still holding that today, or even up until the past couple of years. One thing that's kind of interesting, people have been calling for a recession since like 2016, and everyone's so scared of taking a 10 or 15 or 20% loss that they've sat on the sidelines and wound up missing out on 30, 40, 50% gains over these past couple of years. I think last year, just an S&P 500 index fund would have delivered, 31% profits. So this coronavirus thing, it's been around since late December. We've known about it. A lot of people say the markets are kind of irrational. It's like good news drives the market up, bad news drives the market up, worse news drives the market up. The General Salamini, we killed him. Market got rocky for a couple hours or a day, but then continued shooting up. The whole Brexit thing's going on. Market continues going up. It's like no matter what happens, the market keeps running. This coronavirus has been around since the end of December. I actually went on a trip back in, mid to late January, and I think that's when people were first kind of starting to learn about it, and it was starting to be in the news more. I flew out of O'Hare and flew back into O'Hare. You saw people in the airport with their masks on. You saw people on flights with the masks on. But really, like, this has been going on for a while, and it wasn't until just recently that people, even just the past couple days, that people have been freaking out about it. Like, as this coronavirus thing was happening, markets continued to be driven higher and higher and higher. I think it's starting to spread. It's starting to spread to more countries. From what the little bit I know about it, the little bit I'm hearing, they're saying it's not as bad as some swine flu. It's not as bad as Zika virus. It's not as bad as SARS. The death rate is actually pretty low. I mean, it's sad when people buy. It's not a good situation. Yeah, it's kind of little bit scary that it's kind of starting to spread, but I don't think it's necessarily this huge issue that it's being made out to be. A lot of people are talking like it's apocalyptic, and really, the market might struggle for a little bit, but eventually it will bounce back, especially if you're younger and you have a longer time horizon. I don't think it's anything to freak out about, and I think this could actually be seen as a buying opportunity. I think the big question is now the time to buy in, or are things going to continue to dip further? If you're worried about that, dollar cost average, start dumping a little bit of money in either every day or every week for the next couple weeks. And some days they'll be higher, some days they'll be lower. If it continues going lower, you'll kind of average your price in. One thing that's kind of in the back of my head, and I don't mean to be too much of a conspiracy theorist, but we're in an election cycle, right? The Democratic primary debates and things are going on. Pretty much, some people love Trump, some people hate him. Regardless of how you feel about him, there's no denying that the economy has been really good. The stock market, housing has been really good over the past couple of years, really like 10 years, but the past year has been amazing. The returns in 2019 were crazy. And I think whether you like or hate Donald Trump, that's the biggest selling point, is the economy is good. And if the economy is good, most presidents are going to get reelected. Again, whether you like Trump, hate Trump, not turning this into a political discussion, but whether you like him or hate him, I think it's fair to say that the media doesn't like him, right? Like, statistically, like 90% of articles about Trump are negative. So if the media doesn't like Trump and they can hype up this coronavirus and scare the markets and drive the markets down, the worse the stock market is when election time comes, the less of a chance Trump has to get elected. So like I said, kind of conspiracy theorist, but, crazy news stories are put out, like the Hillary thing. One piece of news really affected the 2016 election. And so, I don't want to say it's some big media conspiracy, but both because the 24-hour news cycle loves like hype and fear-related articles, and also because it will affect the markets. Like, could this coronavirus thing being hyped up being hyped up to a bigger deal than it really is? I think that's very, very possible. One thing that kind of lingers in the back of my head, like, we are kind of due for a recession. I'm not somebody who tries to time the markets. I haven't pulled any money out of the markets. I plan on continuing to invest, even if the market does dip. Just keep investing. I mean, what other choice do you really have? Most people who time the market lose. So, I'm not trying to time the market. Will a recession come? It probably will. I'll be buying some more cheap stocks, and in the long run, it'll eventually, obviously go back up. One thing that kind of bothers me, so the market's given away a lot of the gains that we've had over the past few months. And I saw something on one of these, talking head channels, and they said, well, probably 4 months of a slide and then 4 more months to recover, which is 8 months. That's pretty much the rest of the year. So some people are saying, well, there's probably not going to be any more gains till the rest of the year. And that's one thing that bothers me. Like, I hate the idea of, I always want my money working for me. I always want my money growing. And I actually took this stock trading course a while back. And obviously this was a pitch to sell their expensive stock trading course. But they were basically telling you, like, when the market crashes and then takes a year to rebound, that's pretty much a year's worth of lost time, right? Like, not only did your money not make any money, but you lost money and are now spending all this time getting back to even. And it sucks when your money's not growing, but really, like, what's the alternative? It's either like invest in real estate, which has its own risks, but at least it's something that's always bringing in rental income, or it's buy dividend stocks, which even if that stock winds up tanking, even if the dividend winds up getting cut, which hopefully it doesn't, at least some money is coming in all the time. Whereas if you're in like a growth stock and there's no dividend, until you sell it, you haven't really seen a gain. So if we go up, down, up, down, up, down, that's a lot of kind of wasted time. But what's the other alternative? I hadn't really prepared for this video, just kind of rambling off the top of my head. Like I said, Sharon's kind of some of my thoughts of what I'm kind of thinking right now. I've got a decent amount of money on the sidelines that I wish I would have put in the market a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, because the gains would have been incredible. I do invest. I dollar cost average every Friday. I'll occasionally put some lump sum money into the market. But I, for whatever reason, I like having cash. I like, having some liquidity. And I've been sitting on cash for way too long. And at this point, I suppose to some extent this is trying to time the market, but I'm like, look, we are due for a correction. I'm not going to stop investing. I'm not going to pull money out of the market. But at this point, if I've been sitting on this money for 2 or 3 years, I might as well sit on it and wait for a good opportunity to deploy it into the market. So I'm kind of waiting to see what happens. I think Microsoft is a buy right now. I don't really mess with too many individual stocks. I got a Vanguard Life Strategy Fund. I do a VTSAX, which I believe is a Vanguard Total Stock Market, and VFWIAX, whatever the Vanguard S&P 500 is. Those last two are probably a little bit redundant to do both of them, but that's kind of, I'm more of like an index fund, dollar cost average kind of guy. But there's definitely some bargains out there. I think the question is, are things going to continue to go lower? If you're worried about that, like I said, just dollar cost average, start dumping a little bit in, and in the long run, everything will average out. Generally speaking, most studies and statistics and things like that that you look at will say you're better off just dumping it all in at once as opposed to dollar cost averaging. But for your mental health, a lot of people like to dollar cost average in. So I got some shit I got to do. I'm not going to ramble on too much longer, but again, I would love to hear your thoughts about this whole coronavirus thing. Drop your comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.